What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're back with more Destiny news. And the game of course has finally had an update after a pretty extended quiet period. So we'll talk about some of that stuff today, also Bungie clarify a few things, talk a little bit about the future, and even touch on the discussion around the potential for future Destiny 1 content or a remaster, which is a better way of describing it. So a few things to talk about in the video, but first, if you do enjoy the content, hitting subscribe down below really helps us on the channel. And so getting into the content, of course, we've had new stuff this week, but the next episode isn't far away, it's only a month from now. And DMG did say the next few weeks will be about the road to Heresy, a lot of planned changes for Crucible, Trials, and some killer sandbox tuning, as well as the fun content that Heresy has to offer. But long term, they're also thinking about prep for Codename Frontiers, game issue prioritization, and bug fixes, which of course we need plenty of that as well. But finishes by saying stay tuned for Twids, DevComs, and more. And as a lot of people who are still playing the game at the minute are saying, we're probably going to need a better look at Bungie's plans for the future of Destiny sooner rather than later. But of course Bungie will have to be a lot more specific than some of the stuff they've spoken about regarding Frontiers so far. Give us your thoughts below. Another thing from this week though, of course, Destiny 1's tower updated itself and had a Dawning-like appearance, which actually consisted of assets associated with a version of the Dawning that Bungie were going to launch, but didn't. DMG did actually reply to a comment about this and just said, pardon our dust, quite literally nothing to see here, just some old unintended echoes in Destiny 1. Our focus for Destiny is Destiny 2, and you'll continue to see content updates and development for some time in this space. D1 will continue to be available, but no content or updates are planned. So for the folks discussing a Destiny 1 remaster, at least for the moment, I suppose that is the answer. And that seems to make a lot of sense, given where Bungie are at the moment. Another quick update before we get on to anything else though. I think some folks kind of blew it out of proportion, but DMG apologized for being short in a response on Reddit, I think it was. It was about some piece of feedback. I don't actually remember the specifics of it, but he simply replied, heard. And it's funny because there was a news article about it somewhere as well, which I think prompted the response from DMG. And of course it probably wasn't the best look, but he said, signed in during holiday to express that feedback was being heard and recorded, and I'll make sure to explain a bit more when responding in future threads. So an apology there, not a big thing, obviously, but feel free to share your thoughts. Another update moving into the Act 3 content though, and referring to the handful of patch notes for Act 3, DMG clarified the patches next week, so we should expect a handful of patch notes then. We already knew that January 14th is when Bungie would drop another update for the game, this one with a bunch of weapon tuning. That includes the Graviton Lance nerf, plus Bungie had said they're working on fixes for Mantle of Battle Harmony and solar damage, and indeed they had also said, back at the start of December, that they were targeting mid-January for the issue where Hunter's Tether was disabled in Vesper's host, so hopefully all of those things are still on the table for the update next week. And given as well that the Firecracker event, which is the Riven's Wish style event where we can pick up tokens by completing a bunch of quests and then grab rewards from Eris, yeah, that hasn't dropped this week, and Bungie did say it would be in the final few weeks of Act 3. But of course Act 3 is only 4 weeks long, so my personal bet is that we're going to see this mini event drop next week alongside the patch as well. You can see some of the weapons we'll be able to pick up from that on screen, so I'm curious, let us know in the comment section, are there any specific items in this list that you would be excited to pick up via this quest? And otherwise, I'll keep you posted when we get further details, potentially in the Twid this week. Another thing that we should get in January would be the Lunar New Year gift. We have seen this in quite a few different years in Destiny 2, where Bungie dropped some Lunar New Year themed items in Eververse, as well as the envelope full of bright dust. And I think we got 500 or 800 bright dust, something like that last year. So that'll be dropping towards the end of the month as well. And now getting on to this week's content, of course we got some new artifact mods, which Bungie interestingly didn't preview ahead of time. So there's authorized mods Grenades, Frenzied Hunger, where rapid final blows while Devour is active grant a bonus to reload speed and handling, and Finders Keepers, where picking up special or heavy ammo has a chance to grant you an armor charge. Plus Void Renewal, and while Devour is active, Void weapon final blows have a chance to generate Void Breaches. And finally Old God's Right, and after picking up a Void Breach, your next Void weapon final blow creates a rain of seeking projectiles. So some of those are pretty cool. Obviously, we're only going to get to play with them for a few short weeks. And as players pointed out, we saw some of these effects in the trailer for Act 3. There's some discussion about that being misleading, as that Void Rain effect right here, for some folks was assumed to be part of the exotic shotgun, which is understandable because That's what the trailer said was happening on screen, but indeed it is an artifact perk. Either way, give us your experiences with those new perks down below. Otherwise, for Slayer's Fang itself, which we now finally have access to, it is a pretty fun weapon, and I think it comes from a reasonably fun exotic mission. An interesting component once again here, but players have pointed out that it would appear there's been a change to this weapon since the original version was shown in the database, where the perk originally said, while Nightsworn Sight was active, final blows grant true sight and ammo slowly reloads from reserves. There's also an indication of that when you view the weapon from the character screen, where it speaks about ammo conservation. However, now that the weapon's been released, that's been updated to granting increased reload speed instead of reloading from reserves automatically. So arguably the weapon got a nerf before it was actually released, which is interesting. Obviously Bungie just changed their mind on that a little bit. And also interesting with Slayer's Fang is that if you're too close to enemies, the weakening shrapnel can actually rebound and weaken us as a player, which is less than ideal. I'm not sure if that's intentional. Obviously, in a lot of content, it probably won't make a major difference, but if you hit yourself with that in PvP or in any of the harder endgame content, obviously that would be less than ideal. Again, for the mission itself though, I think the most interesting component are the puzzles with the Scorn organ. I think it's cool that the mission as well is sort of a boss gauntlet in a way. Otherwise, mechanically, it's quite basic for the general clears of the mission. So I've heard some mixed opinions about that. I guess it's also a little bit jarring for some players, especially if you get lost easily, which is me, by the way. But as a standalone piece of content, I think it's alright. Whether this is really enough to support an entire act of an episode is a different question, but you have to share your thoughts down below. And of course, we do wrap up the Revenant story on the most part by doing repeated runs of the mission. Of course, Bungie cut out all of the time gating for weekly quest steps, so that was something I didn't anticipate going into the exotic mission, like how we got all of the catalyst quests at once. But good that there's no waiting around really for that. And again, give us your thoughts in the comment section. For today though guys, that's what we have to speak about. I'll keep you posted with more information about the upcoming quests, the patch next week, and of course, Bungie's words when they return for the TWID. So keep it locked and loaded here on the channel, get subscribed and I can keep you up to date. If you've enjoyed it, a rating really does help us out as well. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.
No. She cannot be trusted with power. She knows only war. After all I've done for our people, the echo belongs to me. I alone can kill Kells, first and last. There are no others. I can feel it. The light flowing through me once more. You have my gratitude. Adam is scared.